Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. There is a great amount of new vehicles and ships on the way, so let us check out the latest updates. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you all so much for the support. It is truly appreciated. Also, don't forget, GameGlass will be on sale at 20% off any purchase until the 11th of November. To get the 20% off though, make sure you use the code SMB2955 at checkout. Plus, any purchase made does directly support my channel, helping me to make videos like this one. So a huge thank you to everyone who has done so far. So, we have a juicy update regarding all things ships and vehicles. Firstly, let us start quite small-ish, and begin with the gold standard of the RSI Aurora and the AEGIS Hammerhead. Now, for the Aurora series, these are currently awaiting downstream support, particularly for audio and visual effects, as these feature some of the oldest in-game assets. And this is going to be very nice to hear, considering it will be using the new Star audio throughout the Aurora. And as it says, this series of ships are one of the oldest, and this gold standard pass should really help to just enhance the feel of everything. Now for the Hammerhead, it says that design is currently setting up the revision, including the addition of blast doors throughout the corridors and updating the component placement. Of course, with the upcoming engineering system, components and blast doors are going to be very important. Having blast doors intersecting along long durations of corridors will help to mitigate the spread of fire or the venting of atmosphere throughout the ship when an exterior door is opened. So quite important, really. Now, no idea when these two new gold standard ships are going to get their updates. I am hoping for the IAE in 4.4, especially as it is now the downstream teams working on these ships, but until we're told, it is all just guesswork. Now next up, we have the Hull B, which is a big step up from the Hull A, but not quite as monstrous as the Hull C. This is currently being prepped for its white box review, with the final touches being made to ensure that it hits the required functionality criteria. Now this is going to be a great addition, hitting that sweet spot for hauling. Still a ways off though, being in white box, but hopefully it also helps to pave the way for the Hull D and E. For the Drake Ironclad and its command module, which is also shared with the Drake Caterpillar, the module and the Ironclad progressed well into grey box, with geometry and lighting updates to the modular kits helping to set up the interior tone throughout. Now this is actually progressing much quicker than I expected. It's already in grey box, which can take a decent amount of time in itself, especially for ships of this size, but I do love how it is really coming together now and we get to see a little snippet of its interior. Also, with the ship building greatly upon the Drake modular asset set, it will absolutely help when it comes to building out the Kraken. Talking of which, it says that its work continued with white box, with more developers moving onto it as other projects were completed. So that's quite nice to hear, for a change, getting more hands on it to help speed up its release. Very exciting. Now next up, we actually have a personal favourite of mine, since we very first saw it on a CitizenCon stream a while ago, being the Greycat UTV, or Utility Terrain Vehicle. Now I am very happy to see that this is finally making its way into development, as it looks so cool, and I have, ever since we saw it, always pictured myself driving around in one of these vehicles, patrolling the AUG base, or just checking up on the various industrial things and warehouses we have. But hopefully this will also help to bring the standard PTV up to snuff as well, as that thing deserves a lot better. No idea when we'll see the UTV, as all it says is that it has entered the white box phase. However, it shouldn't take too long because it is a small vehicle. So, most likely a next year thing, but hopefully first quarter. Now for the RSI Perseus, this has had a large-scale developer and QA playtest this month to check its robustness and intent in combat, which they say was a great success. And as we know, this is releasing with the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo in November this month, and I am very excited to see this alongside our AUG fleet. Cannot wait to check it out and see what it's capable of. Now next up, we have a mention of a ship that I was not expecting. This is the Anvil Liberator, which is kind of a carrier ship for multiple vehicles. Now it says that pre-production has kicked off for it, which is the phase before it officially enters production, where they try to get a solid base for the wider team to use for future estimation and concept requirements to aid in smoother delivery. So basically, due to the age of the original concept of this ship, so much has changed with the game that to ensure a much smoother process when it comes to building it, they go over it and make sure that these things are thought out and don't crop up along the way. Very excited to hear that this is getting prepared for getting built. It is going to be a very useful ship for all sorts of activities. Now let's talk about the unannounced vehicles making progress. There appears to be about 6 of them in total, with news on 5 of them mentioned here. Now the first one, it says, is on track for the final review in early November, so likely an IAE release. The second is art complete and currently awaiting downstream teams, so again, another potential IAE release. The third, an upcoming variant, it says, has passed its LOD 0 review, with the downstream teams beginning their tasks ahead of its final review, which to me is likely going to be the Drake Golem Ox, with many saying that it's a variant of the Drake Golem Miner, but a hauler instead, capable of carrying 2 16 SEU boxes, so 32 in total, which would be a very cool addition. Now for the next one, it mentions that art was completed for an all-new ship before it continued down the pipeline, with paints being created alongside a full pass from QA. Another is currently with downstream teams for closeout ahead of its final review, so again, another one for IAE, while the last one is approaching its grey box review in early November. Now, these unannounced ships could relate to a number of vehicles that I am hearing about recently. These include things like the RSI Salvation, which could be an internal name, I think most likely, as I assume this is relating to the solo mini salvager rather than another medical vehicle from RSI. The Drake Clipper, which is said to be this vehicle here, and looks like it could be somewhat of a mid-sized hauler of some form. Potentially, my theory would be a smuggler or a blockade runner, and that one that had the funny silhouette fold-up wings from last year's CitizenCon. And then the final one I've heard about is the Greycat MDC, which is said to be a variant of the MTC with surface-to-air missiles. Who knows? Now, other potential vehicles could include the RSI Hermes, which is said to be the Apollo hauling variant, and there is word of a L22 Wolf, so lots to think about there. But until we get official word, it is all just guesswork. But there you go, that is the latest ship update. So many very exciting vehicles coming soon and later, with the Perseus and all of these potential unannounced vehicles. The Liberator is now in development to some degree, the Ironclad, the Kraken, plus my favourite, the gold standard Aurora. Love it. With that said, if you enjoy buying ships, do check out the IMPOUND, where I can get you 5% off. Plus, any purchase made does directly support the channel, regardless of what you're buying. It is much appreciated. If you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. Also, come and hang out over at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother. You are all more than welcome, whether you are brand new to the game or a veteran. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you'd like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. Cannot do this without you guys. Thank you for the support, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.